Hello and welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today, Tabatha Jones. Welcome to the show, Tabatha.
Thanks, Lori. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you today.
I am excited to be here and to chat with you as well, and unusual circumstances of how we connected, because I get a bunch of people messaging me about, hey, I'd like to be a guest on the show, and their emails are so irrelevant to the show. Like, here are the 5 things I can talk about, and I'm like, that's not what we talk about on our show, and but you actually had a great message, and I was like, yes, I do want to talk to you.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I love just the title, Fine is a four-letter word, just totally resonates with me in so many aspects of what we've lived through and done. And it was just such a great match. So I'm excited.
Yes, and we had a really great conversation before the pre-show conversation, and I am eager to get into some of what we talked about there. But first, the question of what were the values and beliefs that you were raised with that contributed to who you've become?
Well, as the oldest of four, growing up in I guess, generally middle class kind of family, right? The values were really about hard work, responsibility, accountability was a big one. Setting the example. I don't know how we phrase that as a value, but absolutely, setting the example and making sure you realize that your actions have a ripple effect on others, and just really, doing what was right no matter what. And sometimes that meant speaking up, but I'm Gen X. So as long as I wasn't speaking up against my parents, we were good.
All right.
So yeah, definitely those, which led me kind of into life, into my career. And just a big piece of that was really caring for others. It was just kind of part of my DNA, I guess, as the oldest. And, the expectations that were on me in that role from a young age.
When you say doing what was right, like, how did you know what was right?
I would say I've always been fairly intuitive and empathetic. There's always this feeling in my stomach if something's not quite right. And it's kind of interesting. If I saw something that was hurting other people, I would speak up. If I saw something that someone was about to do that was a terrible decision, I would speak up. But I would say a lot of it was just intuition and just that gut feeling.
Hmm.
And it's probably saved me from a lot of things throughout my life and helped me make a lot of great decisions through my life.
Do you think it's ever held you back?
Oh, for sure. Sometimes we question that feeling, right? It's getting ready to make some big change. Just recently, I've been working on some changes in my business, and the feeling was there, like you need to make this change. It's a great idea, but then on the flip side, it's like, ooh, what if you do the wrong thing? What if you make a mistake? That also happened when I chose to leave my corporate career in 2021. It's a big, sure you're doing the right thing. So it was like my head constantly questioning that gut feeling, even though there were so many things telling me this was the right time and the right place. Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you override, like, it's not even an overriding thing. It kind of is. Like, trusting the intuition more than the logical thoughts in your head.
Mm. That's a really great question. So I will fully on confess we're in the booth right now. Sometimes there's a lot of analysis, a lot of pros and cons, a lot of talking to other people, like getting perspective and opinions and feedback, which sometimes isn't always valuable because our friends and family see us a certain way, but we might not be really aligned with that anymore. We might be doing different things. So sometimes it leads to taking a lot longer to make a decision because there's so much time spent in that head and heart kind of space and making sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, you just said something that I'm going to pull out as a key point, and we're on not even 5 minutes into this. And that is that a lot of times our friends and family see us in a different light. They see us how they've always seen us. They might see you as still a 12-year-old girl, right? But because that's the image they have, but that's not who you are now. So they don't see you accurately. Like, sometimes strangers see you more accurately as you are now because they don't have any of that history.
That is 100% spot on. Oh my gosh, it's funny. Somebody will reach out from high school days, right? And they start this random conversation. You're like, I'm not who I was. I'm going to say 20 years ago, but we all know I'm lying. I'm
Uh-huh.
not who I was then. Like, that's not how you remember me is cute and all, but no. Or, even from leaving corporate. So I had been in corporate just over 30 years in full. And when I told people I was planning to leave and get into working for myself as a coach, and so many people closest to me were like, oh, no, I just don't see that. Or, oh, but you're so good at your job and you've worked so hard and you've done these things. And I'm like, but that's not really who I am. That's what I did. And even now, a lot of people who are really close to me have a hard time understanding, or they see that I've made some shifts and I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago. I've done a lot of learning and growing. And it's sometimes a little hard to overcome people's perception of who you are and who you should be. And to your point, a stranger that I go and meet on the street is like, man, I love what you're doing. How do we talk? What can we do? Where do I sign up? They're so excited because they didn't know that other version of me. So
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like moving like when you go away to college, you are you don't have to be the person you've been up to that point. You can reinvent yourself. When you start working at a new company, you can reinvent who you are. And when you move to a new city, like I just did a few months ago, like you can be somebody different if you want to. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other thing you said about being really good at what you did for 30 years. Like, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to keep doing it if it's no longer fueling your soul.
Absolutely. And that's hard for people to understand, right? Because I had what so many people want. And I say this all the time. It is perfectly okay to be grateful for what you have and where you are, but to also want something more and different. Or maybe instead of but, I should say and want something more and different or different. And I worked really hard to get where I was. I climbed the ladder as I was expected to, and as I had set goals for myself to do. There was just a point where we had gone through one last reorg, and I just realized I'm not really where I want to be. I'm not happy. My health is not great. I am not enjoying the flow of things, we'll say nicely. I loved my team. I loved my people. I loved my company. I just no longer was aligned with what I was doing. And when it's really hard to get out of bed in the morning, it's a pretty good sign that it's time to do something different.
How long did you struggle to get out of bed before you decided I need to do something different?
Well, it was a good 2 years, but I will tell you why it was a good 2 years. It was because I had planned to leave my job in 2020. So I'd started coaching on the side in about 2017, 2018, and was just kind of building up and getting excited. And I liked my job at the time. I was like, I'm okay. It's fine.
It's
And
fine.
then
It's
it's
fine.
fine. It's just fine. Just stepping fine, right? And so then we get into this space of we're going to go through a reorg, and it started in 2019. And the deeper we got into that reorg, probably about June, July, the more unsettled I felt. I just felt more and more misaligned with the leadership team. I felt more and more misaligned with my job. I had gone from leading very specific, very technical groups to getting kind of what nobody else wanted because you're good at it. I'm like, oof, I don't know about that. So, as it kept going, we got to probably that August timeframe as we're still working on the reorg. It wasn't fully official. And the plan came across. We're just going to bring you across as is with your title. And I'm like, hold the phone. First off, I'm not doing the work that I love the same anymore. Second of all, I'm leading employees across 40 some odd states rather than seven. And I'm now responsible for national work versus division work. Not fine. So I had scheduled a conversation with the head of the department, who's really high up in the company, and just said, I would expect that you would have sent me an offer letter and we would have had a conversation about my title and compensation. I would not expect to come over as is. So we negotiated that. I got a promotion and, all the things that came with that, which was great. But it still was just like, oh my gosh, I got to go back to Philadelphia again. Okay, and I live in California, so that's an all-day adventure. It's
Mhm.
not
Yep,
it's not
it
a quick
is.
trip. It's up
Mhm.
at 3 in the morning to get to an airport, to sit in an airport, to wait for the delayed plane, to get to Philadelphia, land at 5 in the afternoon, which is all day,
Yeah,
and then go to dinner and put a smile on, and then sit in a meeting the following morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, which is 5 a.m. for my poor little brain.
right.
I was just like,
Yeah, and it's harder to
uh,
go east than west, by the way, for yeah.
agree. The mornings come a lot quicker.
Mhm.
And so I had gotten to that point. It was probably September, October, and I was just dreading. Like, I really can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted, but all right, 2020, I'm leaving. We're going to fully reorganize this team at the beginning of 2020. And I'm going to give my notice around March of 2020 and scooch on out into my own world. Well, the world had different
Wait,
ideas
did
in
something
March of
happen in
2020.
2020? I don't
Something
remember.
really weird happened. I don't specifically remember the details,
No,
but
no, it's all a blur. Yeah,
so
okay.
that was a hold the phone. I guess I'm fine. I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing. I will get my team settled, get some processes in place. I'll really elevate my leaders so that their work is distinguished from the work of their teams because it was not at that time. They were new leaders to me. Um, just doing some really good things. So I spent that pretty much entire year with struggling to get out of bed. I was tired. Luckily, I just pretty much had to fluff a little bit from the neck up
I
and
was
roll
gonna say,
downstairs.
at least the one good thing is that you didn't have to get on a plane.
Exactly. No airplanes. So it was great. And we would laugh because my former boss, through the reorg, she was no longer my leader. And we would laugh because I would be late to a meeting or whatever. It's like traffic. I'm like, yes, the stairwell was packed.
Yes. Do you have any
uh,
animals?
I do. I have an adorable dog who's laying under my desk right now.
Oh, see, that's the traffic. He was
So
right under
totally
my
traffic.
feet, I couldn't get up.
She wouldn't let me by without licking me for a good 5 minutes. So
Right.
sorry.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it came to that point, and around the end of 2020, I just kind of looked at my husband and I said, "Here's the deal. I'm giving my notice in April or in March. As soon as bonuses and merit and all that stuff is done, I know where my stock options are sitting. I'm gonna go." And as amazing as he is, he's like, "Are you sure? You make really good money. You got great things." I'm like, "I'm doing it, and I need to know that you're behind me." And he said, "I am." I'm like, "Okay." I said, 20%, you're behind me. Got it.
Mhm.
So then I had conversations with friends, same thing. "Are you crazy? You have such a great job. You've been there so long. You've worked so hard." And I'm like, "Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm going to go." And then bonus time came and, the conversation starts up again at home. "Well, are you sure? That's a lot of money." I'm like, "I know, but what else do we need at this point? Like, what is it?" Because
Mhm.
I am 50. I want to be happy. And so he said, "All right, you've got this. I'm behind you." I was like, "Okay, we got this." So I gave my notice to my boss on Zoom, probably a couple days after all my paperwork and bonus had come through, and watched her visibly choke on Teams, which was what we used at the time, as I gave 3 weeks notice. And yeah, but just rolling around like that just fine. I couldn't imagine doing it for one more year. I
Mhm.
couldn't, and not serving my purpose.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, that your health was being affected. And
Yeah.
was that another like, was that a consideration? Was that signed kind of a side note?
Mm.
What was
Yeah.
happening there? And did you know that potentially, I don't know this for a fact, I'm speculating, that your health issues were because your soul wasn't happy?
I did not know that. I did not ever really put together that my health issues and my job were fully related. I just kept saying, "Oh, it's just stress, right? It's just stress. It's just stress." And I had been seeing a naturopath since my early 40s, really getting some holistic, full rounded, like, they do all the tests, the allergies, the
Mhm. Mhm.
deficiencies, all the things. And my hormones, all of them, were never in balance. And we've got so many hormones in our bodies that I never even knew the names of until I started working with her. But what happened is, I just like, oh, I feel nauseous all the time. I'm tired all the time. I either eat a million whatevers or I eat nothing. Like my body is just not regulated. I'm not sleeping. I swear I hadn't slept in I don't know how long. And we had levels run all my tests in February of 2021. I left the company in April of 2021. In August of 2021, 6 months after
Mhm.
my former tests, I had tests run again, and my naturopath, she said, "What's different?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And she said, "Have you looked at your report?" And I said, "No, I haven't. I always just wait to get on the phone for you to go through it
Right.
and tell me I'm
Right.
sucking right
I
now."
let I let you interpret it, thank you.
Right. I like for you to tell me what I should and should not be doing. And so she said, "Well, I want you to open to this page." She said, "This is the first time ever that your levels have all been correct. Your hormones are all level." And I was like, oh, she said, well, what's different? And I said, I left my job. And she said, oh my God, that job was killing you. And I'm like, it literally was.
Mhm.
I just hadn't ever equated it because as women, we just keep doing the thing, right? Ah, it's just stress. It's fine. Well, it's not stress. It's all the components and things that happen in your body because of stress.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that happens regardless of gender. In fact, I think men are even more resistant to admit
Mm. It's true.
that that is
They,
that is a contributor. And our whole I mean, our whole world, but especially in our country, stress is the number one, like, killer, but people don't think of it as being, like, all that important. Like, everybody's stressed. It's just how we are. It's how life is,
sure.
but it doesn't have to be that way.
That's very true. And, I won't say there's no stress with being self employed, right? There's definitely different stress, but it feels like coming from this place of awareness. Now I can help other people who are like, oh, it's just stress, or, oh, I don't feel
Yeah.
so well. It's like, well, have you thought about talking to this kind of doctor, or have you tried a little meditation and sound bowl
Yeah.
session? Here's my
Yeah.
friend's number. Just trying to help get that level feeling again, because it's such a better feeling when you're not such a mess. I mean, I was a
Yeah.
mess.
And I think another key point here is that managing your stress and your health doesn't mean you necessarily have to leave your job,
True.
right? Like if you're aware of what's causing these issues and you can find ways to deal with and manage it, it doesn't always mean just because you left your job and went and started your own thing that everybody who's listening or everybody who's having stressful symptoms caused by stress needs to quit their job and start their own thing.
Oh no, unless you want to be exponentially more stressed, because that
Well,
wasn't your plan to begin
well, like you said, it is very different. It is different
with.
when you are controlling your own destiny. The stress
Yeah,
is different. But yes, there's always going to be stress. I don't think um there is no such thing as a stress-free life
right.
because again, stress is kind of a natural thing. Like we need it, I think, to be somewhat motivated and not just be um as much as I would like to be a cat and just sleep on the couch all day.
Sounds a little boring. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think, there's always going to be some, but not all stress is bad. That's the point.
Yeah, I agree with that. And back to your earlier point, not everybody is meant to jump from their job and go do their thing. I mean, I was 50. I had built a pretty good runway for this. Some people may just find that they're in the wrong job, or they may find that they're frankly working for someone they hate. Who knows, right? Whatever it is, if it's something that's not in your control, then you've got to find ways to control it on the outside, right?
Yeah.
Definitely getting into more things that are self care that help with your mental and emotional health. But sometimes you just need to make a little shift or a pivot or look at new opportunities that maybe hadn't really caught your attention before. But I do think the negative side of stress is a great motivator to go in and find what makes you happy and makes you feel good.
Yeah. What would you say to people who would say, "Well, I don't really have any options because I need the money. Like I have a
Mm.
mortgage to pay, I have kids to raise, I have I have debts or whatever it is. I can't leave this job and it sucks and I work for a company I hate, but I there's nothing else I could do." What would you say to them?
Ooh, you are not a tree. You can move anytime. And even if you are a tree, you can be dug up and replanted somewhere else. A lot of times it's fear. It's fear and not understanding transferable skills or understanding what else you could be doing. There are, I don't even know how many companies in the United States. Some will hire remote, some will hire, in your area. It's scary. And it's scary, especially once we're at a certain age, because it's a little bit more uncomfortable because we've been doing maybe the same thing for a long period of time. That doesn't mean you have to sit in the suck. There's definitely options. And I would never say leave your job and go find the next thing. I would absolutely say stay in this job. Let's manage your calendar a bit so you can start looking for your next thing and start feeling more hopeful about it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. We talked in our pre-show conversation about Um, being expected as Gen X, as part of Gen X, doing what was expected of us, but this weird dichotomy of Gen X doing what was expected of us, but we're also feral and don't care what other people think, and we're gonna do our own thing. Like, it's so weird.
And that's what keeps us stuck sometimes, right? It's so funny. We were talking about that, as you said, just before the show, and we were talking about how I was making a bit of a pivot in my business. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go do this, and this is the best thing ever. And I'm like, wait, what if it's a bad decision? Let me go get some permission from someone really quickly.
Uh-huh.
And we laugh because it's really kind of funny. There's some things we'll just go do and we don't care. And then other times it's like, oh, the streetlights are coming on and I'm a mile from home. I better watch out. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Right, right, right. Yeah, because you see all the memes on social about Gen X being feral and forgotten for, like, all the yeah, we're forgotten, we're feral, but we also wanna make sure everybody's happy and, "Do I have your permission to do this?" Like, "Is it okay if I do this?" Um,
Yeah, I think it's a combination of being raised with a bit of people pleaser and then a little mix of feral and a little mix of, keep your head down and just work hard. It'll be fine. You'll get through it. So many messages that have come to us through life that have made us who we are, which is an extremely resilient generation, or probably a generation that can handle so many different kinds of stress. I mean,
yeah,
it's just kind of
yeah.
so many things just popped into my brain. But yeah, it's a weird balance, and it's like that really mixed cocktail that makes us who we are.
Do you think that, it also makes us I was gonna say resistant to change, like, "Well, this is who I am, this is my identity, um, and so, but now I want to change." Like, I think people have reached this age, if you're Gen X, even if you're older millennial, you reach this age where you're not willing to settle for what's been put in front of you just because somebody served it to you that you have to eat it. And that we've gained this level of confidence now. I think comes with age that you have this level of confidence to go, no, no, that doesn't suit me anymore. I don't like beets and I'm not going to eat them.
Hilarious. I've been on a beat kick all week, but yes, or Brussels sprouts.
I have not
Yeah,
liked beets since I was an infant. No beets for me. Thank you. But
hilarious. Yeah, I would say it's that finish what you started programming, right? You This is the direction you chose. You're going to stick this path, and you're going to finish what you started, and you're not getting down from the table till you eat those Brussels sprouts
yeah,
or
but
beets.
right. But it's okay. See, I think this is
Yeah.
another one of those key takeaway points is you don't have to finish what you started.
Mhm.
You could change in midstream, and that doesn't make you like a, a quitter.
Exactly. And that's so funny when you said quitter, it just hit me. That was the biggest thing, right? If you signed up for soccer, you're not quitting. I paid for that. You're part of the team. You are not quitting. I'm like, but I suck at soccer. I hate standing in the grass and it really makes me itchy when I fall.
Yes.
But we learned don't be a quitter. You've already invested so much time and energy and whatever it is, you can't quit or you can't change. And what I say to that is, I mean, I'm in my not quite mid 50s, almost mid 50s. How much runway do I have left?
Yeah.
Don't I get to deserve to be happy and do what I enjoy doing? We all deserve that, no matter what your age is. And we have to work on ourselves, I'd say, to get to a spot of building the confidence to do whatever that is.
What did you do? What was that work that you did to get to that point?
Oh, so much overthinking. That little analysis paralysis for a bit. Just so much over thinking. I'd say journaling was one for me. Really getting down and looking at my finances, right? I have to come at things from a logical. We all have to feed people, especially our dog who eats really great food. Um, it's what do we need to live? How much do I need to bring in per month to make that happen? Can I do that? Hell yes, I can. And, how am I going to feel? So starting to visualize, how's it going to feel? Am I going to feel like I can't get out of bed? Or am I going to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm on fire today. I don't want to leave my desk. I just want to get these things done. Or I want to get out to that event and go meet a bunch of amazing people who are looking for support and that I can support. And it takes time. It's journaling, it's thought, it's gosh, there's this movie. It's called The Longest. I think The Longest Game is the name of it. It's a golf movie. I hate golf, so I'm just going to
Golf
emphasize
is
that everywhere I
indeed
go.
the longest game.
It
Mhm.
is, but one of the quotes was, "The game isn't about the holes. The game is played on the 5 inches. It's played in 5 inches between your ears," and that applies to life. I'm like, oh my gosh, it just hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, every single thing. It's just whatever that 5 inches or whatever it is between our ears is where it all happens.
Yeah.
And once that's in alignment and gets through all the questions and the thinking and remembers your why and your purpose and getting really gets really clear on that, you're really an unstoppable force. And
Mhm.
you're going to be much happier for however many years you plan to do that.
Yeah. And we hear this over and over and over again, like your thoughts create your reality. What you think about, you become. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, that's the truth, kind of thing. Uh, and still, it's hard to really crystal to really uh, anchor that into your beliefs.
Absolutely. I would agree. I'm never going to tell anybody it's easy. I definitely do find myself, I have a friend who does paddleboarding meditation sessions, and I love both actually.
Yes.
Paddleboarding mostly, but meditation comes in. And I love getting out on the water and doing that because I can just lay on the paddleboard. And while she's doing her thing, I'm just visualizing what's next and
Mhm.
visualizing why I deserve it. I think a lot of us just don't believe we deserve it.
Mhm.
We're not, we weren't put on this earth to work ourselves to death and be miserable.
Yeah.
We definitely deserve to be happy. And, the next, my financial advisor always asks, well, how long do you plan to work? Until I don't want to anymore. I don't know,
Right.
70, 75.
Right. I don't have an answer for that question because, right, it's until I don't feel like it anymore. When I was doing my year of nomading, and people would be like, well, how long are you going to keep doing this? Until I'm not doing it anymore. That's the answer. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's the other thing, too. We worry so much about other people judging us. Sometimes we have to let that go.
Mhm.
And this year for me, I'm working on letting go of judging myself. I'd say self judgment is one of our biggest roadblocks. And at the end of 2024, I don't do resolutions, intentions, and goals. My intention is I am going to intentionally catch myself anytime I'm self judging, stop and write down what's really going on. Because we judge ourselves so harshly. What are people going to think? Well, am I doing the right thing? Are people going to think I'm a disaster?
Yeah, and I think that that voice inside our head that's judging is not even our own voice. It's someone
Mm-hmm.
else's voice. It's
Yeah.
your parents or a teacher or a grandparent. Somebody else. It's somebody else's voice if you really get quiet enough to listen to it. Um,
Mm.
you'll find that it is not your own voice because your own voice is supportive.
I love that. I really love that. I've been working with a friend who's a spiritual coach, also separate from the paddleboarding meditation. See, all these
Mhm.
people are coming into my life for a reason
It's
right now.
awesome. Yeah.
And, that's one of the things she said, when you feel something like that come up, take yourself back to, your 5-year-old self. What would you have told her if she was saying the same
Mhm.
thing? Like,
Yeah.
man, you just want to protect that little 5-year-old version of yourself and not ever let her feel like she can't or she's not good enough or that she needs to be judging herself.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done some work too on that inner child thing,
Yeah.
and I always feel like this is stupid, but it is valid. It does have a
It's weird
point.
at
It does
first.
help. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
it's a little weird at first.
Yeah. It's but it is important to realize that, again, like, most people acting as adults in their 50s or 60s or 80s, they're still being controlled by that 5-year-old. They just don't
Yeah,
realize it.
right. And once you do realize, it's really powerful. Once you have those strategies and those techniques to go and sit with that 5-year-old for just a few minutes, it can help you move forward so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah, it can open up doors that you maybe have wanted opened for all
Mhm.
these years, but you didn't realize why you couldn't open them. Why isn't what I
Absolutely.
want working out for me? It's
Yeah.
because your 5-year-old is too afraid to let you open the door.
Right. The boogeyman might be behind it.
That's right. It's 100%. Uh, it's always
Yeah,
about protecting yourself.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Um, so what are you doing now to humanize your business, your current business? How are you
Hmm.
showing up and humanizing what you
Well,
do?
oh, that's a really interesting question. Humanizing it. I'd say leaning more into that's another. It's funny that you're asking this. The timing is really key right now. One of the things that I brought with me from the corporate world is that toxic, buttoned up
Mm.
persona who isn't 100% aligned and authentic with who I am. And it actually took a friend calling me out in November saying, "Where is Fun Tabitha? I need you to bring her back right now." And I was like, "Oh,
Yes.
God, okay. All right, let me find her real quick." So I have not been super active on social media or anything recently because I am working on just getting some more fun and playfulness back into my content, back into my life, because it's so important. When we leave something after a long period of time, that's a part, it becomes a part of our identity.
Mhm.
And I'd say as much as I feel like I've let it go, I haven't. And I realize that when I'm uncomfortable, I become very corporate.
Mm.
And so right now, the humanizing is going to be about showing more of the stumbling blocks, about showing more of the pain points. And where I've worked with women advancing their careers and on the job search, which is all very serious and sometimes not as easy to be lighthearted about because there are a lot of emotions behind it. I'm adding in kind of that corporate escape Sherpa, is what I'm calling myself, and helping women plan their next act and having fun with it so that they're not feeling like they can't start letting go of those bits of their personalities or those bits of their it's not even their real personality, but the pieces that have stuck to them over the years, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely humanizing it through more fun, through more realistic expectations of what leaving corporate and moving into entrepreneurship looks like, and just helping women feel women and maybe some lucky men. I always forget about the lucky men who call, but definitely helping them understand that there's so much going on beyond those corporate walls, and we need to have some fun and enjoy our time here. So,
I
oh,
love that.
long-winded answer.
I no, I appreciate that. I love it. And it feeds right into my next question, which is what's the song you listen to when you need an extra boost of energy or maybe you need to add some more fun into your
Oh
life?
my gosh. So funny. So my playlist is that crazy kind that goes from, I don't even know, like Aldine to Afro Man to it's everywhere, Jelly Roll. I would say the song right now is kind of hit me with your best shot. Like bring it at me.
Mm.
Let's go and fix it. We're gonna figure everything out and just land where we need to be. Any song with high vibe energy makes me happy, but we'll say hit me with your best shot this week.
Okay, awesome. Lastly, if someone wants to continue a conversation with you and see if you're really bringing fun to it, uh, where do they reach you?
The easiest place right now is to connect with me on LinkedIn and we'll go from there. So, we're going to have some
Okay.
really great resources for the next act stuff. And I also have a new podcast, which I'd love to share, which is the
Yes.
Gen X Remix Life Laughs and Next Acts, where we'll actually start having some great guests starting next month. So, I'm looking forward to hopefully convincing you to come visit me there too.
Awesome. I love it. Well, congratulations on starting that. And
Thank
I
you.
will put a link to I'll put a link to all of that stuff in the show notes so it'll make it really easy for people to find you. Tabitha, thank you
Perfect.
so much for joining me today on Fine is a four-letter word.
Lori, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to staying connected. Have a fabulous day.
Absolutely.